Hi, I'm Hobie1. This is Red Share Reading. Today I'm reading The Black Book of Secrets by F.E. Higgins. Glasses, check. We're on chapter 22. Let's go. Sterling makes a stand. Good people of Pegasus Parvis, began Sterling, I beseech you to listen to me. Beseech of? He thought in a sudden panic. Is that right? No matter. It would do. There was no one here who was an expert in the complexities of the English language. His voice quavered audibly, and his hands shook. He wished he had taken a second shot of whiskey to steady his nerves. It had been years since he had addressed a crowd, and certainly never in such uncomfortable surroundings. It was snowing lightly, and he was standing on a box in the middle of Main Street, just north of Jeremiah's house. He had thought it is a good spot. He cleared his throat and raised his voice. For I tell you now, I have been visited by an angel in the night. Until this point, his audience had consisted of three mortals, namely the Sourdough boys, armed and ready with snowballs. Everyone else, once they had established who he was, had walked around him. So much so that his podium was already encircled by a ring of footprints in the trampled down snow. It was only when he said the word angel that people stopped to listen. These heavenly creatures appealed greatly to their starved imaginations. Soon there was a small crowd gathered before him, their red-nosed faces looking up at him expectantly. An angel? Inquired one. Yes, an angel. You sure about that, Sterling? Shouted Horatio. Maybe it was a visitation from the bottle. Too much port can have that effect. The reverend reddened and carried on. A great angel came from the clouds and roused me from my bed. What did this angel say? Mocked Horatio, making no attempt to disguise his disbelief. He said, Sterling, you must tell the people of Pegasus Parvis to beware, for the devil has come among you, and he is tricking you with his wiles and his filthy lucre. Wiles and filthy lucre? Laughed Elias Sourdough. What language does he speak? Is this angel from a foreign country? Money, said Sterling impatiently. The devil is among us and luring us with wads of money. There's only one devil in this town, and we don't see his money, said Job Wright, the blacksmith, and he pointed in the direction of Jeremiah's house. At the same moment, the upstairs curtain twitched, and Sterling wondered if perhaps he should have gone a little farther up the hill. Not Mr. Ratchet, he hissed, then raised his voice. But Joe Zabbidou, the devil's pawnbroker, at the same time shaking his clenched fist at the sky. There were gasps all around, and Sterling realized that finally he had their full attention. Unwilling to lose this advantage, he hurried along. Joe Zabbidou had come to us without warning, appearing from nowhere in the night, to entice you all into his shop with his fancy goods. Ludlow, who was watching all of this from Horatio's doorway, raised his eyebrows. Fancy goods? A chipped chamber pot? Hardly. What does he intend to do with us? Asked Lily Weaver. What does he intend to do with us? Repeated Sterling, out of habit. He had not anticipated this question when he had been preparing his speech. He had thought that he might be challenged. He couldn't recall such a thing when he was in church. Granted, most people were asleep then. The silence was deafening. Let's see. Yes. Once he has lured you, he will take you over to his side, the dark side. Unfortunately for Sterling, this was where he lost his tenuous hold on the audience. Pegasus Parvians did not consider the dark side in any way threatening. They had not forgotten those long Sunday sermons from years ago when the reverend bored them half to death, droning on about the very same subject. They began to shuffle their feet and talk to their neighbor or walk away. Desperately, Sterling tried to recapture the moment. Jeremiah had promised him a case of the best port. If you go over to the dark side, then you will be lost forever, and will burn in the fires of hell. At least we'd be warm, shouted Obadiah, and the crowd laughed. Do not jest about the devil, warned Sterling, in a final attempt to hold them. You never know when he is listening. Hang about, Reverend, said Ruby Sourdough. Here comes the beast himself. Why don't we ask him about this dark side? Joe was indeed coming down the street at his usual jaunty pace. He had the grip of a mountain goat. Right now, one or two of the villagers were wondering whether his shoes did indeed conceal those telltale cloven feet. "Morning, all," he called and smiled. "Did I hear someone mention my name?" Although Sterling was not being taken seriously, it did seem to some a rather curious coincidence that Joe had turned up at that particular moment. Listen to this, Mr. Zabbidou," said the youngest sourdough at the front of the crowd. "Sterling says you're the devil, come here to burn us all down. All down to hell." Sterling protested immediately. It had never been his intention to actually confront Beelzebub, merely to slander him in his absence. "I didn't say that," he protested hurriedly. "It is a sin to tell a lie, lad." If this is interesting to you, please be sure to boop the like button. You'll help the video spread to other people. And thank you very much. "Yes, he did," said Elias Sourdough to Joe. "He said you were going to lure us with your tickets and wiles." Joe smiled. "I have no tricks, and I have no tickets. You know what I am, a pawnbroker. Have I ever pretended or acted otherwise? As for wiles, you are welcome to come and look for them. Perhaps they are in the window?" At that, everyone burst into raucous laughter. Sterling scowled, picked up his box, and slunk away. That's the end of chapter 22. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you again in chapter 23. Bye.